Welcome to Fitsmith. What I'd like to show you today is a few variations on abdominal exercises which I usually coordinate into the cardio circuit, which I mentioned during the lunges portion, which I plan to show you in the next couple days. So what I would have already done by now is I would have warmed up, I would have done the side stretch, and I'm going to show you just a few variations that, as I said, I work into the circuit. So I have a towel down over the mat that I use to protect the mat from perspiration. I do clean the mat periodically, but the towel just protects the mat from too much sweat getting into the actual material. So I guess one of the first things I'd like to mention is please make sure that you have water nearby anytime that you're exercising. Just not to have too much, but you know, it's good to stay hydrated while you're exercising. And please consult with a doctor before you start any type of exercising. Okay, so the first exercise I want to show you is an oblique exercise, which is, it sort of incorporates some of the aspects of Pilates because it's a very subtle, targeted movement. Your oblique area are the muscles on your abdominal that are on the sides of your abdominal area. So what I do is, the first thing you want to make sure that you do is press your lower back into the floor. That is exactly the same thing as tilting your pelvis, tucking your pelvis, which I discussed in the introduction. If I'm going to be going over to my left oblique to do work, I bend my left leg over so that my ankle is on my right knee and this is open here. I put my hands behind my head just to support the weight of my head. Your head weighs about 12 pounds, so you don't need to exercise your neck. So I usually hold my head, and it's not, you know, you may have heard this before with other exercise routines. What you definitely don't want to do is something like this. Your arm and your shoulder are not what are actually going to be lifting you. It's this area here that we're targeting to lift you. So a way to make sure that you're in position is you want to aim your shoulder. So I'm aiming my right shoulder toward my left knee, and I'm keeping my left shoulder and my left elbow down on the floor. I'm holding on to the outside of my thigh with my hands. It's just for positioning. I'm not grabbing it. I'm not really, it's just to make sure that this stays flat. My shoulder's on the floor. My upper back is actually also on the floor. Now I'm aiming my right shoulder toward my left knee, and you can feel when you come up like this that what you're using is this area. And you just very slowly pulse. And what's pulsing, you can actually feel it if you hold here, is your oblique area. And I will typically do this to a minute, which I will either use a stopwatch or I'll count to 100. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to 100. When I'm done doing that, what I typically do is straighten out my legs, straighten out my arms over my head, and then twist. So with the way I twist, there's various ways of twisting. The way I twist is I'll bring my left foot up to my right knee, and then just let it roll over while I'm letting my arms and my chest roll to the left. So everything here is rolling to the right and everything here is rolling to the left. Sometimes I actually feel a crack in my lower back when I do that. I think that's neither here nor there, but if you hear that, don't necessarily get concerned, because it's just your back, your spine loosening. And I would do the same thing then to the right side. And the other exercise that I might use during a circuit is a bicycle. So to do a bicycle, again, my lower back is pressed into the floor, so that's exactly the same thing as the pelvic tilt. You can feel your lower abdominals actually have to be engaged to do that. And a bicycle is basically when you put your hands behind your head and your hands are just holding your head. But they're also turned, so when I'm going to bring my left knee to meet my right elbow. So I'm just doing this to show you. Now again, you're using mainly your obliques to do this. So to make sure that you have the position right, you could practice just on one side, and you should be able to feel your obliques moving, working. And my lower back is constantly pressed into the floor. The same thing to the other side. Now this is, I'm just holding my head. I'm not using my, I'm not using my arm or my shoulder to pull me up. It's just holding my head. And you want to keep the active leg as close to the ground as is comfortable. If I move my leg too low, it makes it impossible for me to keep my lower back pressed to the floor, which is really bad for my lower back. So you want to keep that leg wherever it's comfortable. And the more you do it, the more you practice, depending on your body structure, you'll be able to lower your leg more. The actual bicycle looks like this. So you're alternating, my lower back is pressed to the floor, I'm not jerking my head, I'm just using my hands behind my head to hold my head. And I would do this again for a minute. And usually, I guess if you're, because this is definitely not the same motion that we were doing when we were pulsing, if you can't use a stopwatch, I would just count to 60. 1, 2, 3, 4, because this is like a second every time. If you can't do it as fast, it's actually better. The slower you do this, the more complicated it is, the more intense it is. And to get out of that, I would just stretch my arms as far up as they can go and my toes as far out as they can go. And I'm going to show you 2 more abdominal exercises. The first one, the first of these 2 that I'm going to show you is a little intense. What I'm going to be doing, it's sort of like the bicycle, but it's with both knees at the same time. So my hands are behind my head. What I'm going to be doing is straightening out both legs and bringing them in. I don't know that I can talk much while I'm doing that. I've never tried, yeah, okay. So my lower back is pressed into the floor. Typically the way I would do this is make sure that I'm breathing out, in, out, in, out, in. It's just natural with what you're doing with your lungs. Now again, my hands are behind my head, but I'm just mainly using them to hold my head. And my legs are coming in and out. This is really a full abdominal exercise. After I do something like that, I'm probably going to want to stretch out my stomach something like this. Something like a cobra position, which basically means that you're putting your hands under your shoulders while you're laying down and then just slowly pushing up. And you're not trying to do anything really extreme like this. All you're trying to do is stretch out the area that you just worked. Now the last exercise I want to show you is called rollbacks. I'm not a big fan of using equipment, but this I find to be definitely a good investment. I got this for $10 on Amazon. It's called a rollback wheel. It's very simple, it's plastic. They have some fancy ones. I never saw the need for getting a fancier one, so this is very intense. I'll show you first what this is, and then I'll describe what's happening. So the position that I'm in is my knees are right below my hips, so they're slightly apart. I'm holding this with both of my hands, and you just roll. Now the thing to make sure of when you do this is you're keeping your back as straight as possible. If you let your back sway, it's really bad for your lower back. This also incorporates your arms, obviously. When you come up all the way like this, from here to here, you're really not doing anything, so it's a little bit of a break. So here is where the exertion ends. If you continue to roll back to your heels, you're really just giving yourself a break, which is fine if you need it. I usually don't do that. I usually just keep it like this. Okay, so in another couple days I'm going to be showing you more aspects of the circuit, and then I'll do a few circuit routines with you. Thank you so much for joining me. Be sure to check me out on Facebook at Fitsmith, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Be well.